Hey, what's up everybody, Lawler here, and now that RLCS X rosters have officially locked, let us dig into every single roster, where they were, where they're at now, and who they're going to be moving forward. And as always, if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up, as well as hit subscribe to turn on notifications to make sure you guys don't miss out on any of the content. And if you'd like to further support me, easiest way to do so, down in the description below, you can find all the links to my social media. Make sure you guys give those a like, follow as well. So on yesterday's stream, as promised, there was a plan to go over the RLCS rosters coming in for RLCS X, all the changes, all the things that you needed to know. Basically a master list of what the roster was, what it is now, and how it's going to be moving forward. But chat decided to have other plans, and for those that did end up making it over to the stream from the YouTube channel, which many of you did, I greatly appreciate it. But because of all the issues and the fact that chat made it essentially impossible to edit together, we are going to be re-recording this one for you guys specifically. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go through NA, all the rosters. We're going to basically talk about what the roster is, what they were in Season 9, where they are now, how they got there, and their results during the offseason, kind of with a focus to kind of give you something to grasp onto moving into the following season. After we get through NA, we're going to then talk about some notable teams from the Rivals series, as well as bubble teams that you should pay attention to. And then we're going to jump over to Europe and do the exact same thing. So I'm going to try to separate this in two parts. I'll also make sure to put timestamps and stuff down below so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about each team, just in case you want to know specifics or you want to jump ahead to whatever moment is best for you. First things first, the end of RLCS 9, I'm going based upon league play results in RLCS 9 to order these. At the top, before the regional championships, was Spacestation Gaming. They used to be Arsenal, AXB, and Cypical. During the offseason, you could tell that there was something weird that was off about the team. And what ended up being is that there was not a sense of trust, I think, in AXB. So that's why he got the boot. And they brought in Reynolds from Pittsburgh Knights. So the full roster for RLCS X for Spacestation Gaming is Arsenal, Reynolds, and Cypical. I think it's a fantastic addition. I think Reynolds is a very talented player, and he showcased that a lot during the offseason as he tried out for pretty much every single team, and Space Station is only going to get better as they progress forward. Overall, that is now two players you have to worry about on demos and aggression. Cypical is able to buy time, and the pass plays and the setup are definitely there as well. We got to see them recently in the ESPN Esports Invitational on this past weekend, and Reynolds and the rest of the team does a really good job of creating space and separation, as well as utilizing it when they've been given it. That's why they're able to move forward in the tournament in the first place, even though they ultimately lost to Rogue. So Space Station, a lot of potential, even though it's a brand new roster. I looked for them to be a top 3 team, probably in North America moving forward. Jumping over to G2, as you guys can see, there is little green things next to some of these teams, only 3 in total. And the ones that have this green tab essentially mean they're good to go. Literally nothing has changed with this team. No differences, no roster changes. And out of the 20 plus that we'll be talking about, there's only 3 of them. So G2 is one of them. No roster changes, the exact same. Rizzo, Chicago, and JNAPS had a dominant performance after RLCS Season 9, where they ended up winning pretty much everything for the first and next like 2 months. And then they went into a pretty big slump. For the past 8 weeks, G2 has looked pretty poor with very minimal results. Chicago has talked about how with COVID, lack of motivation, and a bunch of other issues, no longer being in the team house, the team just really hasn't been vibing that well lately. So Rizzo is on his way back to the team house. Chicago is already there, and Jazo is already there. I don't know what JNAP's situation is, obviously with being in Canada. I don't know how the border situation works or how that's all going to play out. But as of right now, a lot of the guys are making their way back to the team house, so I hope they start to trend in the right direction. But G2, for G2 fans, is staying the exact same. Jumping down to the Soniqs. The Soniqs had a pretty solid performance in RLCS 9, but as soon as it hit the offseason, they did not have a single good result. They looked abysmal across the board in every single capacity. And this is what we talked about on the podcast, the CJ show that I host with CJ, Jazo, and Chrome. None of us believe this defensive playstyle is going to get you victories. And in the moments that they're able to move up and pressure, they look good. But it just wasn't there. Many people believe that Sathu is also very inconsistent and should have been the player that was let go. But in this case, because of the poor performances, they decided to let go of Dapper, who we'll talk about later. And they ended up picking up J-Russ from Valence. You may recognize J-Russ as one of the players in Johnny Boy's Fusion event that had a really solid performance in ones and otherwise. So mechanical player, should provide some excellent He just seems like a better version of Dapper, if I'm being completely honest, but I still don't think it fixes the core issues of what's going on with Soniqs. I don't know if his urgency is going to allow them to move upfield. Still feel there's some inconsistency issues. Overall, the team plays a little bit too defensive, but if they're able to move Shock into the midfield, he can recreate that MVP level performance. They also brought in Roldiz from eUnited as a coach. Doubt that's going to help at all, if I'm being completely honest, but again, I hope Soniqs can turn it around. They have not looked good in a very long time, and it's actually a lot of pressure on J-Russ and Shock to repeat that occurrence. I think if anybody has a little bit of a breather, it's Sathu. His expectations are pretty low, but we know his potential. Sathu has had some pretty solid performances in the past. I just need to see it week after week, because now more than ever, consistency is going to be rewarded. Going down to NRG. NRG, obviously, in Season 9 looked extremely flat and unmotivated with no World Championship to play with. They won the Season 8 World Championship in Madrid. Season 9 rolls around. They still end up going top 4, which would allow them to get into the World Championship, but they just did not look good. They looked so unthreatening. It was unbelievable. The off-season hits, there's some conversation, I guess, going on behind the scenes between Garrett and Turbo and his lack of motivation and how he's not willing to grind. And Garrett is one of those special players that doesn't really need a motivating factor. He will just do it because he knows it's his career and he's supposed to. Very special talent for that reason. Why he's one of 3 players in the RLCS to be there since Season 1. And because of that, Turbo ended up getting let go. At the same time, and we'll kind of couple these together, Cloud9 was removing themselves from the scene. As you guys know, I put out a prediction video about that. Cloud9 had plans to leave the scene for a while, and because of that, I think it was a really good opportunity for Squishy to be approached. And Garrett has talked about this, I'm pretty sure, in an interview. That's what my chat was saying today, about how they were willing to make a roster change, but only if the right player came around. And I think Squishy, who has history with Justin, also a very talented player. And I will say his defense has been impeccable. You heard me talk about it in my video yesterday. Squishy has been a great addition to this team. Case in point, NRG is the best looking team, I think, in any region, consistently across the board for the offseason. NRG has won almost everything. The only thing they did win, I think, was the Brawl 10K Invitational, where they took second to Envy. But other than that, they've won just about everything. So NRG is looking fantastic. I think this has been a fantastic roster. I think they're the best team in North America by far. And targets on their back, not that that's mattered because they continue to win. So yeah, hopefully it translates into the RLCS where the pros put a little bit more pressure because it obviously is a bit more meaningful. So all in all, 4.5 million to play, everybody focused on you and trying to beat you. It's really tough to stay at the top. But I will say NRG has had moments where they're supposed to lose, I think. I think Rogue could have beat them, actually, in the ESPN Invitational. So the fact that they can get better, I think, is really scary. Touched on this a little bit. Cloud9 used to be Cloud9, now Rat Enterprises. New roster has been signed, but it's not officially announced. That'll be coming shortly. They have been signing up for tournaments like Astro Qualifiers under the name Version 1, which is a sub-team of Minnesota Rocker, which is a Call of Duty League team that is owned by the same owner of the Minnesota Vikings NFL team. So everybody assumes they're going over to that, and it seems like signs are pointing that way. But because Squishy ended up going to NRG, they ended up bringing AXB, who ended up getting the boot from Space Station. During the offseason, Red Enterprises tried Reddles, Illusion, Wondamike, and AXB. They ended up settling on the last one in AXB. They didn't look too bad. Pretty good foundation. Talked about this, obviously, in yesterday's video. But yeah, overall, Red Enterprises started to trend in the right direction. I think they've needed to solidify who they were going to be so they can start practicing and kind of gelling and figuring out what they want their playstyle to be. Overall, if I'm being honest, I don't like the chemistry between Torment and Gimmick. I just feel like it's a circumstance that they find themselves still together because they don't have a choice if they want to keep their spot. But again, I don't know how this one's going to play out. I'm kind of curious to see how it does. Season 9 had Ghost Gaming, where it was Illusion, Atomic, and Mist. Mist ended up coming over from Pittsburgh Knights. Had a decent performance, kind of middle of the pack, just looked very unmotivated, super inconsistent. They got dropped due to COVID. Ghost Gaming ended up leaving the scene because of financial reasons. And at the same time, I was actually a pretty big role in this. I ended up talking to Envy because I have some contacts over there saying that they have a ton of potential. They just need a really good structure and a really good backing to motivate them. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have an incentive-based contract. But at the same time, the reason why this one was really unique is because Illusion, I think, was on the way out anyway. And for Turbo to become available, a guy who's won 4 World Championships, known for being super clutch, positional player, veteran status, has a ton of experience, can help a team that's just never been able to clutch it up. Ghost, if you guys know, have always ended like 4th, 5th, when it comes to league play. But then when it comes to the regional championship to go to LAN, they end up getting 5th and don't make it. So bringing in someone like Turbo is going to help with that. And you already got those results for the Brawl 10K where they ended up winning. He shows that clutch factor, and you can hear their excitement about how they finally won something out of mist. But Envy as an organization has been around since 2007. I feel like if it wasn't for someone of their status being able to have a facility and a place for him to live and take care of a true international transfer, I think Turbo could have been in big trouble. So this one is a circumstance that I think really opened up for not only Envy, who's been wanting to get back into Rocket League, but also a very talented roster and player. I'm not sure on how this one's going to develop over time, but they are still very talented. We want to see if they can continue to recreate the performance they had in the Brawl 10K. We just haven't been able to see it yet. They've been a little sluggish in the ESPN Invitational, our most recent event. I'm still going to look at that rivalry that I'm going to keep talking about between Envy and Rogue moving forward too. Next up, you've got the Pittsburgh Knights. This one is all over the place, and I'll try to do my best to explain. So the season ends, they get 7th place. People aren't happy. Part of it is due to complacency, and they'll admit it. They just didn't grind as hard as they did. Off-season hits, they end up really starting to grind and kind of putting replay analysis and stuff in focus, and they start playing really well. And then for some reason, Redo starts window shopping at other teams. He literally goes and tries out for every other roster. He ends up trying out for Envy, and then it just kept going from there. And at that point, as a roster, if you're going to try out for other teams, I personally don't want to work with you anymore. So it puts AJ and Gyro in a really bad circumstance. Assume AJ sees Redo's doing it and is like, well, shoot, we're screwed. So he then does the exact same thing. And the only one who kind of stays put, doesn't do anything wrong at this point, is Gyro. Gyro's just along for the ride, waiting for it. And now Pittsburgh Knights, as the organization, is in a weird predicament. It's like, do we try to find a new roster, try to patch things together? What do we do? And at this point, they just say, screw it. I can tell you Pittsburgh Knights moving forward is most likely just going to pick up a new team. I can tell you right now, they have confirmed with me they are picking up a new team or a person that they want to develop a team around. But they will no longer be representing AJ, Redos, and Gyro moving forward. And because of that, the RLCS team that still gets the spot, because spot is owned by the players, is going to be under their old name, which is the Peeps. Gyro is still the only original member. AJ came in last season from Rogue, and then they're bringing in Illusion from Envy. So the Peeps still keeping 2/3 of the roster with AJ and Gyro from season 9, and then bringing Illusion over from Ghost/Envy, which allows them to still get the day 4 bye in the regional events. Haven't really seen any results. They just got knocked out of the Astronauts Qualifier 3 tournament very early on, not even into the best of 5 event. So I know Gyro's pretty unhappy about that one, and that's what worries me. I think this team, more than anything, really needs a coach. They need someone that can help motivate, keep the players positive and focused. I think playstyle wise, they actually might be able to work pretty well together. I think the number one thing though is Gyro needs to play offense. To get him off of defense, let him be confident, let him hit shots, and he'll give you those game 5 clutch OTs again. So Peeps, best of luck moving forward, but I don't know how that one's going to play out. Jumping over to Rogue, Kenobi Wonder, and First Killer in Season 9. Almost got relegated, ended up dropping to the promotion relegation and holding on because you can't get rid of Kenobi that easily. Because of that and the results, they get rid of Wonder. Wonder is now playing for a different team, which we'll talk about in a bit here. And they bring in Turinturo, a young stud who played in the RLRS for 2 seasons under Charlotte Phoenix. And I forget the team he was on before that. I can't remember. But yeah, he used to play for Charlotte Phoenix, brought him over. It's now Kronovi, Turinturo, and First Killer. For many of you that have been watching the Brawl on my point for my streams, you should recognize that Kronovi and 2 wickedly aggressive and fast mechanical players has pretty much allowed him to win the Brawl every single time. And he's literally recreated that with 2 of the biggest potentials on this new Rogue roster. Their offseason was a little weird due to Turinturo being on vacation for most of the North American tournaments. So they ended up playing with their new coach, Corrupted G, for 2 of those. So you didn't really get a real sense of what they were going to be able to accomplish. But since Turinturo is back, they've looked great. Top 4 performances in multiple tournaments, looking really, really good. I think Rogue is probably the most improved on of any team during the offseason. And Rogue fans should be happy moving forward. But in roguelike fashion, yes, they're able to clutch up some games, but when it comes to the one that matters most, they still tend to fall a little bit short. I think that's what really separates them between the energy as well as them. I could put Rogue, honestly, in a top 3 spot right now. So I think Rogue fans would be happy to hear that one. Jumping over to eUnited, we got Roldiz, Hawkstar, and Ajax. Not the best performance in 9th place during the RLCS. Almost getting demoted and able to clutch it up against Charlotte Phoenix, who just continues to have a rough time and almost chokes away all their results in those qualifiers, which is harsh, but Results speak for themselves. Then as we look at eUnited, they ended up going out and doing some interesting things. First and foremost is they bring in Memory after having some pretty solid results with him as a sub and as kind of like a super sub. And they start trending in the right direction. And then after committing to him and giving him an official contract, a month later, they let him go and bring in Wondermike, who used to be on 08 Toyota Corolla, the probably the worst name I've ever seen, being honest. But Wondermike, obviously, as you guys know, tried out for a bunch of different teams. He's super subbed for Charlotte Phoenix. He played for Pittsburgh Knights and a couple other teams, but got poached pretty good by eUnited and unfortunately for Memory. But beneficial for Wondermike. I will say Ajax during the offseason has been putting in more hours than he ever has in his career in the past. And on that Batmobile has been looking pretty dang solid. So as long as they get one of those players between Ajax and Hawkstar to step up and the other one can continue to perform consistent, I think United's got a chance. But I think they did get a steal with Wondermike. Very talented player, and I think he's definitely an upgrade over Memory. Over then to Alpine Esports. This was the team that took first overall in the RLCS. They were previously known as Omni Nation. After being dropped, they then turned into Affinity and then became Alpine, recently signed. They also just picked up Mystic as their coach. This is one of the 3 teams that was not a roster change. This is the exact same roster than what you've seen from the RLRS moving forward. To me, Percy is the best player on the roster, but Magic Bear got all the love in the Fusion tournament for his 1v1s. And Jordan has been pretty good as well, able to work in some of the mechanical ability. So happy with them moving forward. I think their biggest flaw is they're just not confident in themselves. They have the ability to actually overwhelm teams, and they just will not move in and take aggression. They play way too passive. They give too much space. If they just realize how gifted they were, and I hope Mystic helps with this, they could really overwhelm teams. They actually had a chance to beat NRG in the ESPN Esports Invitational. So Alpine, a lot of potential. Excited to watch them moving forward. Watch out for them if they get that confidence. We'll see how that goes. So that is your 10 RLCS teams. Jumping down then into notable ones, kind of paying attention to. Even though there's 32 teams that are able to play in the fall split for RLCS X, I don't think it's really important to kind of talk about the ones that at the end of the day, when it comes to the big events, the top 8s, the etc., just really won't have a chance. So with that said, we're going to be then focusing on the teams that I do think have some potential. One, as you guys know, 72PC mentioned this is a team that is still unsigned and looking for an organization. Used to be Jacob, Lion Blaze, and Demo, previously known as Democat. Dylan changed that back in like March. They have then changed. Wonder is coming over from Rogue, and then they also have Ty Not Tyler, who I haven't seen compete in a really long time. I do think this team is actually a downgrade from what they used to have, where they have replaced up-and-comers that have gotten poached by other bigger teams with kind of washed up. I don't know if that's the right word, but players that have not been towards the top. So I do think 72PC is a little bit of a downgrade, but maybe that veteran experience and a little bit older will allow them to benefit from the extended, the long time grind, the capabilities. I do think they are still a very talented team. But against some of the competition, I can't put them towards the top. So until we get to see these guys play more, I can't really give you an honest opinion. So I do have some reservations, though. Next one up, previously an RLRS known as Mirage, signed by the Northern Arena boys up in Toronto with a Leaf. Good buddies of mine, actually. Mirage organization with Northern Arena. Luke Joe now goes by Freshness, and J. Russ, who ended up going, obviously, to Soniqs. They ended up getting dropped and are now Omelette. They ended up picking up Lion Blaze from 72PC, which is probably one of the better free agents that was available. And Omelette, as you guys know, played absolutely stellar in one of the most recent North American tournaments. So Omelette, I think, is a very talented team. They stole the hearts of many until they lost to NRG. I expect these guys to get picked up unless they continue to approach contracts the way they have been. I've seen some pretty awful expectations in their contracts, and I can tell you right now, if they continue to do what they're doing based upon what I've been hearing, no org will sign them, period. Because some of their requests are just asinine. They will never get picked up with some of their requests. Kids got to learn the hard way sometimes, man. So it's the nature of the business. Next up is Valence. Used to be known as Absolute Leverage with Kinsey, Rodoko, and Wondermike. Back in RLRS, they had Wondermike, and then they ended up transitioning out of RLRS into 08 Corolla, which is Wondermike's most recent team. That's why that could be kind of confusing. But they played pretty well. I think Kinsey and Rodoko are a fantastic duo. They ended up bringing in ZPS, or Zombie Poop Shark. Interesting name that I hope has to be abbreviated no matter what on broadcast. Either way, a lot of potential. Valence, I think, is going to be picked up relatively soon here. From what I've heard of rumors, whether that's true or not, we'll end up finding out But I do think they have a lot of potential. I think they're a young, hungry, and motivated team. I think Kinsey and Rodoko are a fantastic duo. They're just looking for that third person to tie it together. ZPS has shown that he can adapt and kind of adjust to whatever is needed. So hopefully they end up improving moving forward. Up next, Stromboli, probably the team that I think should have promoted into the RLCS based upon their results and their performances, has recently been picked up by XSET. I think they have a ton of potential. Surprisingly enough, I think their best roster was when they had Alpha Cap, JPOW, and Heck. But they're sticking with Alraz, who, coincidentally enough, ended up trying out for Pittsburgh Knights during this offseason. With that said, I do have to say that in their most recent tournament they played, they looked pretty good. So I think Alpha Cap's a fantastic addition. A little bit older guy at 22. Should provide a little bit of maturity, even though he does some dumb stuff on stream every once in a while. But I think he's learned his lesson. Either way, I'm pretty keen on this roster. I think they've got a ton of potential, and I'm really happy they got signed already. So best of luck to them moving forward. Definitely one that you will see in the top 16. Moving over to Charlotte Phoenix, obviously a fan favorite. Karma, Shadow, Turinturo. Obviously Turinturo is now out. And they bring in Dapper because Dapper has gotten the boot from the Sonics. So Karma, Shadow, and Sonics, Dapper and Karma, I think get along really well, and they actually are complementary in their play styles. The biggest concern here, Shadow just needs that confidence. If he plays well and he is confident with his team, things are going to be great. They need a strong voice during the game on this, and I hope they can find that. I don't know who that player is going to be to step up. Dapper's usually a pretty quiet guy, so it's going to have to be Karma, and I don't know if I can trust that right now. Karma and I are great friends, but I think she performs better when she's not the best player on the team that everybody is having to rely on. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Charlotte Phoenix, Dapper, everybody, best of luck moving forward. We then jump down to Chaos Esports Club, now Plot Twist, or formerly Plot Twist. This is Mektos, Taroko, and Corrupted G. Corrupted G, obviously, like I said, going over to Rogue as the coach. As for that reason, I think this is probably a better thing. I think Corrupted G was obviously the weakest on the roster. No offense to him. Gabe is a fantastic human being, and I love him to death. But they bring in Sosa, and ever since, Plot Twist has looked extremely well. Good performances in the offseason. Still not quite at the top, but definitely with practice are going to look better and better. The best thing about this team, very decisive. Know exactly what they want to accomplish, and they look clean. There's very minimal double commits. The issue, though, that they have is they still have tendencies of an RLRS team where they commit too heavily and get counterattacked and punished greatly. Saw this all the time in the ESPN Esports Invitational, and I hope they clean that up. Jumping over to the team that automatically got demoted from the RLCS is Flight. It was Rapid, Seabass, and Memory. This team went 1-9 and had an auto demotion into the RLRS, but they are making some big changes. Right now with KC Pioneers, Rapid and Beast Mode are almost guaranteed to start. Beast Mode's a unique circumstance. What ended up happening is Beast Mode is 14. He turns 15 on August 3rd, which will make him eligible to play. So they had to preemptively sign him as a sub because he can't be part of the starting roster. They ended up adding Memory as well. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But what I assume is going to happen is that Seabass is not going to be the starter. Rapid, Memory, and Beast Mode, which that is interesting to see because Memory was easily the best player on Flight back in season 9. And they're adding like this new crazy mechanical player in Beast Mode. So who knows what will happen with KC Pioneers. This could be an interesting one. And last but not least, kind of my personal shout out, 3-star Armada had a really good performance in the Brawl 10K. Prime Thunder demo of X72 PC and then skills. They're staying the exact same, no changes there. But they have been signed under Crimson Wings. So that'll be an interesting one to see how these guys develop. I think they just get a nod because they've had some pretty good performances consistently in the offseason. We are now a very long time in, and that is all the rosters from North America. So again, this is a very long video, and we're only halfway there. I know you guys said jokingly you wanted longer videos, but I don't think you meant like this. Jesus. Alrighty, over to Europe. We're going to be taking the results from league play from RLCS 9, working our way down, notable rosters at the end. First up, Renault Vitality, a roster that is the last one that did not make a single change. Vitality is the exact same with Fairy Peak, KDOP, and Alpha 54. Still looking actually like the best team in Europe. No changes there. Super talented still. Them and Energy I want to see play so bad at international competition, but again, Vitality, best team in Europe, in my opinion, right now. Part of the reason because they did not make a change, and the only team in Europe to not make a change. We then jump down to Dignitas, Violent Panda, Yukio, and Astral. During the offseason, it looks like there were some things going down, and they were frustrated with Astral's mentality and personality, or whatever you want to call it. Astral also chose to leave because he has said that he didn't really feel like he had any friends. They were definitely teammates, but they weren't people that he organically had chemistry with. He also saw the results of Vitality having an all-French roster and wanted to go to an all-French roster, which we'll get to next. Because of that, they bring in a player from the Clappers who had a really good performance in off-season tournament in Fusion for Johnny Boy, and bring in Jorias. People say Joe Reyes, but Jorias, who's a super mechanical player, reminds me of Astral in the early days. Maybe not as much mechanical ability, but as he's getting more and more confident in the offseason, they've been looking better and better. I still think it'll take some time, but Dignitas kind of in that top 4 area, 4 or 5, I would say overall. Then jump down to Reciprocity, Farrah Fruity, and Shawzet is what Reciprocity used to be. They got dropped and then picked up by Oxygen, as you guys know. They ended up letting Fruity go, went over to Liquid, which we'll talk about after. It is still Farrah and Shawzet, but Astral from Dignitas ends up coming over, and this is a top 2 team in EU right now. They look absolutely fantastic. Farrah has been loving this. I think Farrah's addition with Astral has looked absolutely stellar, but they still have been able to get all the big wins. But ton of potential. Oxygen looks really freaking good. Another all-French roster. They're taking over. Then go to Mousesports. Mousesports was Cookser, Speed, and Scrubkilla. If you guys don't remember, at the end of Season 9, Scrubkilla ended up leaving early with the last 2 weeks to play, both for league play as well as a regional event. They brought in Arju as their super sub. Clutched up, qualified them for LAN, but then we had no LAN, so it didn't matter. They ended up dropping Arju and deciding to go with Fruity, who was let go from Reciprocity / Oxygen. And now it is Cookser, Speed, and Fruity, and they are flying the Team Liquid banner. So big shouts to Team Liquid coming into the scene. I think it is a fantastic home for the boys. And Fruity in the offseason has done some pretty exciting stuff. Very easy to understand what his rotation style is, which is providing confidence. And I think Cookser and Speed, I think Speed has been playing significantly better. He's also playing a lot more. But Fruity on his rotations through, leading with a ton of demos. First time I really noticed it, I'll give him credit for it. On that third man in rotation to kind of open it up. When they can't find demos, they struggle a bit, but Team Liquid potential to be a top 3, top 4 team in Europe. Then go over to Veloce, who I still consider one of the most boring teams. People are saying that I hate them in the Reddit comments. I don't hate them. I just think that their playstyle was really boring and it wasn't entertaining at all. And I always critique for the Renegades Veloce series at Season 8 World Championships, and I can't stand it. I think it sucked. With that, Veloce not staying in anymore. I don't know if it was due to Psionics or due to financials or what, but they've changed the name to Top Blokes, and they brought in Archie, one of the other players with Joris or whatever the heck his name is, on the Clappers that performed well. To me, Archie is a big up-and-comer. He's one of the best free agents that people could pick up as a very methodical, mechanical player. Compare him to Mist in North America. Super talented player. Really happy about him. I don't know how Blokes is going to perform moving forward. They've had kind of mediocre results, but again, I think it's weird to kind of plug in a player like that and have immediate solid overall results. So Blokes has potential. We'll see how they end up playing. Archie and Flame kind of have similar play styles, but I do not blame them for picking up probably the best available player out of those that are available. So we'll see how Top Blokes moves forward. We then jump down to Barcelona. It was Flakes, who came from Complexity, Devo, and Roniki. Flakes has decided to leave due to wanting to find other players that are similar to his play style with a methodical, defense-heavy, mistake-forced kind of situation. Because of that, they ended up bringing in Itachi. I've done a video on this. Itachi was a player that qualified for the RLCS back in Season 3, but ended up getting his team disqualified. It was him, Classic, and Hello. And the reason why is because he is from North Africa. So because of that, he's not in an eligible region. There has been talks, and it looks like it's going to be confirmed because of this. He is moving to France. So because of that, he is going to have the capabilities to play. So it is going to be Itachi, Devo, and Roniki. Trending in the right direction. Started off a little bit shaky, but the more they play together, the better they look in the offseason results. So Barcelona could be a fun one to watch. Next up, Singularity is a little bit weird because there is still Singularity involved in the scene, and we'll talk about that later. This one was Nolly, though, and Godsmilla. They ended up benching Godsmilla pretty early on into the offseason. And with that, Scrubkilla came in from Mouse, but never officially under the team. They never officially signed him. At this point then, Guild, which is David Beckham, he co-owns this organization. Guild Esports ends up coming in and signing the roster relatively recent with Gregan as the coach. Results have been mixed, haven't been good or bad, just kind of in between. But hopefully now that they have a dedicated team, an org backing, they can start trending in the right direction. So I'm not too sure on how this one's going to play out. I do think the team has talent, but I don't think the coordination has really worked well. I think Nolly and Tho get along great. I think their coordination is fantastic. Scrub just feels awkward in the rotation. We'll see how that plays out. We then go to Endpoint, that kind of had mixed results. During the season, they ended up letting go Nachito. In the offseason, they then pick up Metzenaris from TSM and looked great. Really aggressive in the tournament that they did play in. Virtuoso bullies and demos people like nobody's business, and Related Waves defense is just absurdly good. So this looks like a true team effort to win. The team together gets victories. It's not one individual player, and I love it because it makes it so if one player is off, it's not as big as a deal. But at the same time, if someone is off and the pass plays aren't developing or someone's not able to put shots, you're going to notice it as well. But again, Endpoint, true team victories on this one. I love this roster, and I hope we see them more and more. Keep your eye on Endpoint. I really like this team. Jumping over to Solary, this is a team that promoted into the RLCS from the RLRS. It was Carrion, Exotic, and Melo Shisu. Melo Shisu ended up getting removed, and they brought in Yukis from the Baguette squad. Haven't seen too many results from them personally. I just don't think they've been competing, and if they have, that just means the results haven't been all that good. So again, a team that has to adjust to make that jump into the RLCS level, especially with it now being open qualifier and having that chance to compete all the time. But because they are recently promoted into the RLCS, they're going to be rewarded for that, and will extend into that day 4 kind of result. Team BDS, as you guys know, I'm pretty keen on. Another team that ended up promoting, played absolutely phenomenal in the RLRS. Monkey Moon marked by 8 and Clay X. This team was super talented, but they fell short, and they needed to make one adjustment to it. And the adjustment they made was they brought in another player in Extra who used to be on AS Monaco with Ignite and Tigre. This team looks stellar. Love Team BDS. Super, super keen on these guys. Really like this team. And excited to see where they move. Monkey Moon's nuts mechanically. And even with him scoring minimal goals, they still looked really good in their last tournament. But Team BDS, this is going to be a team that I think people need to be very careful of. That is your RLCS teams. Now moving on to the notable teams from the rival series, or teams that are just going to have chance in open qualifiers. Stormtroopers is another fusion team that played really well. Polar, Dead Monster, apparently Jack. Nothing changed there. Giants, who was recently signed. Vodafone Giants. Used to be ERCD, Espanol, Wastake, Zamway, and Tox. No changes on that one as well. Just a team that got picked up. Another team that used to be a team that also was in the RLRS, Notorious Legion Esport, with Taz Matane, as you guys should know, with Team Echo Zulu, and Cash. Ended up getting rid of Cash and bringing in Ixo from X Weedham Girls, and is now known as Monkeys. Another team that has good results as of late. One that we thought that was going to be completely disbanded is TSM, which is crazy that they're so far down on this list. As you guys know, Mets, Magnus, and Remco did not have a good team. Finished 10th, automatically demoted, and we thought they were going to disband. Remco was going to retire, but as you guys saw in the previous videos, they have talked about how they're just going to be playing for fun, having a good time. They are known as Chalked, and they're bringing in a long-time buddy. So this could be a content team, a lot of fun. Either way, it should be fun to watch their progress. Now, the team that was a little bit confusing that I mentioned was Singularity. Singularity was a team that, like I said, benched Godsmilla, but they never kicked him off the roster. Nolly and Tho ended up going with Scrubkilla over to Guild, but because they kept Godsmilla, they are then bringing in Hibbs and Breezy, also from X Weedham Girls, and are making Singularity 2.0. They will be flying the Singularity banner, but just for like understanding sake, just know they will be Team Singularity. It's just this is the new iteration of it. It'd be weird to put Team Singularity and then Team Singularity again, but this is Team Singularity under the Team Singularity organization moving forward. Nameseekers, we got Nachito, previous of Endpoint, Clay X, previously of Team BDS, and Cash, previously of Notorious Legion Esport. 3 very talented players coming together, having good results. This is the #1 seeded team in the open qualifiers, I'm pretty sure, for RLCS X, which started yesterday for the open qualifiers for day 1. So this team, #1 seed, I know they have had no issues with their games and are just waiting for the next round. So Nameseekers looks really good. Triple Trouble, Tadpole, Bluey, and Rix Ronde. They ended up getting Rix Ronde and then taking the 3rd and final player from the Clappers in Calyx. Not sure how this team's going to perform. Haven't seen any results. Toss in the air, but pretty notable names. Last but not least, then we got RJM going to Libertas, which is me, Rizix, Justice, and Mike Boy. They end up getting rid of Justice and picking up Rix Ronde from Triple Trouble now that he's available. That is a lot of content, and a couple things to note before we wrap it up. Number 1, if you guys are unaware of how it's going to work, RLCS X Season 10 is now a 3-split 365-day season. It is different. There's no longer a 2 RLCS seasons per year. It is entirely different. Go check out the format video on that. Highly recommend that, as it'll give some explanation. Also, in a video coming soon, I will break down the updated rules, the point structure, and how things are earned, and all that stuff now that that information has been out. And I highly recommend, if there's any rosters I did miss, because there is so many we talked about, leave those in the comments down below, just so other people may be able to kind of use this video as a one-stop shop for all that information. Speaking of one-stop shops, this document that I just showed you guys, it is the same RLCS roster document that I've shown you guys in the past. It is now the new tab. It has been updated. You can find that in my Twitch chat by going to twitch.tv/Lawler and typing !RLCS rosters. It'll also be in the description down below. So anything you guys need to know, that is legitimately like 30 plus rosters. All the ones from RLCS, the notable ones from RLRS, and a couple others that I think are notable based upon these roster changes. If you guys have any other questions, this is the roster changes galore. This is everything I think you need to know moving forward for RLCS X, so you know which teams are going to be the ones that are going to win. Again, a super long video, but if you guys enjoy videos and content and all that kind of stuff, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the best Rocket League news on all of YouTube. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.